Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Learning Space. I am your host, Nicole Galucci. Georgia Bracey will be joining us shortly if she can. She got pulled into a meeting this afternoon here. So hello, everyone. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are. I see a couple comments already. So coming in from Guido, who says good evening, because he's in Germany. Nancy, hi Nancy. And from Michael Jobin, who says exclamation point. I'm pretty sure that's always your first comment, Michael. So if you are watching live, we remind you to use the Q&A app to ask questions, leave comments, say hi, tell us what's going on, and come say your hellos, and then Nancy will be helping watch the chat as well. And we have, I say we, even though George is not here, the royal we, have today a very special guest, James Dunbar. So hello, James. Just need you to unmute your mic. I don't think I have the control.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, hi there.
We brought you in to talk about, this is actually after I got the ebook of the Universe Verse. I think you sent out thank you emails, and I said, hey, want to come on our show? And you've graciously agreed to come on in. So,
Of course, I would love to.
Can we see your T-shirt?
Oh, you can. So this was one of several awards from my Kickstarter campaign, which I used to publish this book.
Very nice. So you want to give a short introduction of yourself and what is the Universe Verse? What is this book?
Sure, you got it. So my name is James Dunbar, but I usually go by Janie. And I was born here in Oakland, California, where I live now, although along the way I've lived some other places. And I've always enjoyed drawing, and I've always enjoyed science. And about 8 years ago, I decided to put those two things together and embark on a rather ambitious project, which I don't know if at the time I knew it was going to take me 8 years, but probably good I didn't, because otherwise I might not have gotten started. But I thought it would be cool to create a scientifically accurate, rhyming comic book about the origin of the universe, life on Earth, and the human race. So basically the origin of everything, and as I said, illustrated and rhyming. Because what I really wanted to do was make something that would be fun and accessible and engaging for a really wide audience, and especially really young children, because I really think that kids are kind of the most malleable in terms of their preferences and their beliefs and their enthusiasms, and that kids are naturally, scientific and love science because science is curiosity. And so what we need to do is make sure they don't get that enthusiasm beaten out of them or, sucked out of them by boring science or, high-stakes testing or whatever it might be that gets teenagers and young adults and adults thinking that they don't like science, which is silly, because who doesn't like science if they really know what science is? So I wanted to make a book that would hopefully do a little something to move the needle in the right direction when it comes to science literacy. And because I like art and because I like writing in rhyme, I thought this would be my little contribution. So yeah, so I made this book, and took me 7, 8 years to illustrate and publish it, and just last year I did a Kickstarter campaign to do the whole thing in a nice, beautiful hardcover version, which turned out wonderfully, beautiful, full-color illustrations and stuff, and it was super gratifying because, as I said, it's been a long time in the coming.
Yeah, you've got a physical thing you can wave around, like, I made this thing. That's amazing.
There's nothing like objects.
So what was your science education like? Obviously you weren't completely turned off of science, so what was your experiences with science, I guess, early on in your life?
So it was really just the science I learned in school. Both my parents, I guess, are scientists, so that was a very important part of our household. My dad studied animal behavior, and my mom studied developmental psychology. Both are very interested in science and learning, and so I think there was a lot of that in our home. And whenever I had questions, they wanted to help me actually understand the answers. They never shot me down and told me to run off and go play with something else. And then I always enjoyed science at school, but formally, I didn't really continue that in college. In high school, I took a couple AP classes. I did the biology and chemistry, um, and then in college, I ended up majoring in visual art and sociology. And I took some science classes just for fun.
Okay.
Actually, to Brown University, where there's no set requirements, so you can, beyond what you do for your major, you can take whatever classes you want. And I took a geology class, I took a psychology class, and I took a microbial, it was emerging microbial diseases class. I'm pretty
Ooh.
sure I was the only person in there that didn't have to take it, and it was challenging. And the professor was like, I went and saw him at office hours at one point. And he was like, "Why are you taking this class? Because no one takes this class unless they have to." I was like, "I don't know. I just kind of want to see what class in the science department was going to be like." And I'm glad I did. I thought it was. I think it's really valuable to kind of sample things from different disciplines, and so that was fun. Kind of kicked my butt, but there you go. So yeah, that was then my formal training. But then when I was writing these books, of course, I did a lot of research.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually living in Boston at the time, so I went to the libraries and I just got lots of books out about the history of the universe, of which there are a number. One of my favorite, I actually pulled off the bookshelf, was this one. I don't know if you've heard of Bill Bryson, A Short History of Nearly Everything, but not only is it very educational, super entertaining. He's a hilarious guy, and he also, the really nice thing about that book is it talks about the scientists behind the science. So it talks about, not only how things are, but how we figured it out, which I think is fascinating. So.
Cool. And then what's your writing and artistic background? So you're bringing really beautiful illustrations. I have the first two books here. I don't have the third one yet. I have the first two books, and the illustrations are really incredible and detailed. So what's your background there? Like here's a miniature ecosystem going on.
Mm-hmm.
I should probably show the actual digital version instead of holding that up to the camera.
Well, that worked all right. But yeah, so I've always enjoyed drawing. That's been kind of my creative passion from when I was very young. And I actually have always enjoyed making books. I think that was kind of encouraged by my parents. They would actually set me up with crayons and stuff, and then kind of staple a few pieces of paper together with some construction paper, and there you go. It was a book, and that was all of a sudden making books. And actually, a little while ago, I was going through some of my archives, looking for stuff I wanted to share because I was going to give a presentation, and I found some books from when I was, I don't know, it must have been like 5 or something like that, and they were illustrated rhyming limericks that were not scientific, but they were very much in line with what I'm still doing. So yeah, I've been making kind of books my whole life. In starting in middle school, I was doing the comic strip for the school newspaper, which I did as well in high school. And then in high school, I made a couple fun little books. One of them with the friend that I was doing the comic strip with, this guy, Patrick Hamilton, who's a teacher now. We were in our AP calculus class together. And after the AP test, they obviously want to keep me busy, so everyone had to do some sort of calculus-themed project, and we decided it would be funny to write and illustrate a children's book about calculus. So
This is the goat one, right?
yeah, so we made Gordy McGranite Grapples with Gradients, a calculus story about a mountain climbing goat who wants to go and become the greatest mountain climber in the world, and his grandpa says, "Wait, slow down. Before you go out to the world, you need to learn about slope," which of course is calculus. So he teaches them how to take derivatives, and right, it's all presented in rhyming, illustrated, cartoon format. So yeah, obviously been doing books about funny science topics for a while now.
That's fantastic. Georgia, hi.
Hi.
Georgia, I just saw you go past my little window coming back.
Better than ever. Hi, James. Good to meet you. Sorry, I've been late here.
Oh, no problem.
Okay.
Getting pulled into things. So We have a question. We have a science question, something that you address in your first book. Michael Jobin wants to know, when did baryonic matter start? So if you want to talk a little bit about when matter as we know it got started.
Oh, yeah, I'm not great with dates, but yeah, I mean, let's see. I kind of stick more to the process, I guess, than the dates. One thing I have been meaning to do is add a appendix with a timeline.
Oh, okay.
But I don't have that info off the top of my head.
Sure.
I can tell you about
Yeah, it's within that first second. Do we have that one electronically? No, but here we go. By the end of the second, creation was able to build some real matter, solid and stable. An example couplet that addresses that question.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cute.
So how did you get started? So you talked a little bit about some of some of the books that you liked. How did you get started in did you sketch out the timeline first? Did you start drawing panels? Where did you get started?
Definitely, I started with the text. So I started by writing, and the first thing I did was just list out all of the major concepts. So I've been reading, a number of these books that talked about the history of the universe, and I tried to kind of bullet point what I thought were the things I wanted to touch on. Obviously, you can't cover everything, so I tried to figure out what I thought was most important and just list it. And then, then I kind of took a crack at writing and getting a feel for the rhyme of it. And there was a ton of editing. There were some sections I just had to write and rewrite over and over again. Getting the rhythm is really difficult to write rhyme that isn't clunky and awkward to say. Once I'd written it all, then the illustrations actually took most of the time. Mm-hmm. So the writing, I managed to write the first draft of the whole book in a few months, probably like 4 or 5 months. That said, there were still hundreds of hours of editing and revisions to go into the text, but the bulk of the text was done in a few months, and then the illustration took a really long time. And I decided at a certain point that if I wanted to kind of maintain momentum, I wasn't going to be able to just do this all as one big project. That's when I decided to split it into 3 parts. And I thought it'd be fun to do one beginning part that's kind of that's just about the origin of the universe, and so it's dealing with matter and energy and the fundamental forces and stars and fusion, galaxies, that sort of thing. And I actually did that one all in black and white for a couple of reasons. 1, it was easier. 2, it was cheaper. And 3, it kind of worked with space. There's I think the black and white imagery is kind of evocative of deep space, and so it worked there. But then by the time I got around to book 2, I really wanted to incorporate color, thinking that as we got to planet Earth and life forms, that color would be really useful in illustrating it and would also just be really visually pleasing. So then book 2 was the origin of life on Earth, and then book 3 was the origin of the human race. And so by dividing into 3 parts, that way when I finished book 1, I was actually able to say, okay, I was able to print this book and start selling it, despite the fact that I hadn't finished the whole thing. And so then it was nice because I was able to get some nice feedback, and people were able to, support the project already. And then I was also able to start kind of building a fan base, which at the time I didn't realize it, but actually worked out really well with how I ended up doing the next few books with Kickstarter, where it's really useful to have kind of an existing network of supporters. Of course, when I did the first book, Kickstarter didn't even exist, so I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to get this book out there, and I figured, whatever method was going to work was going to work.
You definitely caught the attention of a lot of astronomers with the first one.
It worked out well because that was around International Year of Astronomy.
Ah, yes.
That was a nice plus.
And then probably biologists with the second one. You're moving through different populations of.
Right. It's very interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
There's actually been kind of lately a growing movement called Big History, which is the notion of teaching the history of everything. And one of the things that they kind of are saying is they think is really valuable is in sciences, a lot of times people focus, very deeply into one area, and you get to know one thing so well, but then you kind of lose sight of how it connects to other things, and that, especially for kids, it's really nice to see how everything connects and get kind of a big picture view that you can't get if you're just a geologist, if you're just an evolutionary biologist. But if you bring all these disciplines together, you can kind of see a really holistic view of the universe and life and Earth. So
I was just discussing by email with an educator who's teaching they are teaching science to education majors. So they have like one 13-week course to teach, like basic science to education majors. And they're using the question, are we alone in the universe, to which is a great idea for how to tie in multiple disciplines of science. And I feel like, this does life on Earth, but it, has the universe. You can imagine extrapolating that to other planets and other life.
Right.
So this is good because it touches on all of those things. The physics, the chemistry, the biology, the sociology, all of that.
Yeah, that's really important because, your life is multidisciplinary. So whether you think about it that way or not, it's not just that is the way life is. And so it helps people make a really nice connection to whatever it is they're reading or whatever it is they're studying. And so it's really important. Otherwise, people just aren't engaged. If they don't see any way to connect to it, if they don't see themselves in there somehow, then, they just kind of say, it's nice, but it's not me.
Yeah. I like that notion. Life is interdisciplinary.
It is, yes.
So I want to ask about these characters in the book. In the very start of the first book, you have these two characters. The guy looks kind of Einsteinish, right? So there's this guy, and there's a man and a woman, and there's also a baby. I don't know if we have the digital version. They have a baby. So tell us who these characters are, and where you got that idea.
Yeah. So. Right, I had this idea that I wanted to have these books that explained the origin of the universe and some pretty abstract concepts. And there was a kind of a stumbling block of like, well, how am I going to tell this story? And I realized that I really needed some sort of narrators to, kind of make these visual. There's a lot of visual metaphors. There's a lot of times where you just kind of have someone explaining something or acting something out and gesticulating and making it approachable. And so then I was deciding, well, who should these people be? And I think my original plan was actually to have the baby be the narrator. I don't know where I got this idea. Actually, I guess it came from the books originally were I wanted to make a book that was going to explain where babies came from scientifically. And so explain the science of heredity and, sexual meiosis and DNA and genes and all that sort of stuff. And in working on that project, I kept kind of thinking, well, I want to explain where cells came from. I want to explain like what DNA is and where that came from and what genes are and where they came. I kept going backwards. At some point, I was like, you know what? Scratch that. I'm just going to start from the very beginning. So I'm going to start at the beginning of the universe, and maybe once I've laid that groundwork, I can get to this other book later. But so the narrator for that book was going to be a baby explaining to other babies where they came from. But then I decided that doesn't make a lot of sense. Where does baby know all this stuff from? So then I thought, well, no, who knows stuff? It's people who've been around a little while, grandparent type characters. So I settled on kind of this grandparent couple. And you're right, the dad or the grandfather was definitely based on Albert Einstein, but he's actually a cross with Albert Einstein and the Lorax. So you've got the Lorax mustache, which the Dr. Seuss was a huge influence of mine. As someone who likes rhyming children's books, it's probably easy to imagine that Dr. Seuss is big. And then actually the grandma is based loosely on Rachel Carson. So, the silent string on her.
Sure.
So I thought that would be nice. Not everyone recognizes her. The similarity is not as, I think, striking. But I thought it would be good to at least have someone I could point to that was, a good role model for sciences and women. So yeah, those are the two characters. And then actually in the first book, Bang, the black and white one, I thought it would be fun to have the baby character, who you can see in some of the panels. They're like holding the baby and the baby's there, but in a lot of the panels the baby's actually hidden. And so you can, if you want to, look through the book and kind of find the hidden baby in the different spreads, which I wish I'd stuck with that for the next two books, but somehow that idea fell by the way.
No hidden babies in the color ones.
No, unfortunately, hidden babies. Maybe in the the 20th anniversary edition, all in there.
So, any pets? Do they?
No pets per se, but there's definitely a few pages with some animals. I think there's a page where I took inspiration from the cover of the movie Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. It's a funny little. Let's see if I can find it. But yeah, they're surrounded by animals, and so there we go. This picture, I don't know if you guys have it.
Ooh, yeah.
Is you can see the families there. The layout is pulled from Ace Ventura, which I thought was a pretty hilarious movie.
Oh, wait, there we go. We have a digital version of that. The biodiversity page?
That's the one, yeah.
There we go. Share. Click share. There we go. So you guys can see that on your screen. And that's just macroscopic biodiversity. Of course, since you did, as you were saying, you did take a course in microbes and diseases. You're not even showing the microbes in this explicitly, but you do particularly highlight them as being important.
Mm-hmm. Right. Especially while explaining kind of the origin of life and talking about how diversity is an inherent part of what life is, and what evolution is. I show those are some kind of whimsical approaches to microbes, where I'm just kind of doodling goofy-looking little bacteria and stuff. A lot of times I don't try too hard for literal scientific accuracy with the illustrations, because some of these things are pretty hard to illustrate. And,
I'm trying to find the one with the smiley face, but I think that was in the book I was looking at.
Yeah.
There's like mitosis with a smiley face. It's fantastic. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So you have cells with the little the bits of the chromosome and other little organelles, and then like you show the chromosomes splitting, and it makes two smiley faces. It just it's super adorable. Because that may not be
scientifically accurate.
Right, it's not perfectly accurate, but this is gonna be remembered. The smiley face splitting into two smiley faces.
The concepts are there.
Yeah, very cool. So we have a comment from Guido. I always imagine books like these read in the voice of David Attenborough. That would be an amazing animated series to produce. So, animated series. Do you have plans for? I don't know how well the graphic novel translates to audio or animated.
Well, actually, I did, as one of the things I did for the Kickstarter project, I did actually make a video and audiobook version of it. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, I don't know David Attenborough or Christopher Walken or James Earl Jones or any of those voices that really would have sold millions of copies. So I narrated it myself. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's an audiobook version, and then there's a video version where it's just it's pretty simple. It takes the images and then does like Ken Burns style animation, where it just kind of pans and zooms. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. The actual people don't move, but there's some sort of kind of movement incorporated into it, which is, I was really happy with how it turned out. But obviously, what I'd love to see is Pixar take this on as a feature-length film and bring on celebrity voices to act the part. But I don't know if that's in the cards in the immediate future.
Awesome.
Very cool. I'm trying to think. I had another question and it's flown out of my head as usual. So what? Oh, I know what I was going to ask. There we go. Brain kicked in. What kind of reception did you receive from scientists when this book first came out, and have you been receiving since?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with
Well, scientists and educators, we'll say.
right with the scientists, I definitely, before releasing any of the books, kind of went through my network and contacted the people that I have that were in grad school or that were pursuing academia, and that was really fun. Especially with book one, there were a few things where we had a conversation about it. Actually, that one was really cool because I had a friend who was studying to be an astrophysicist, and so him and his astrophysicist buddy went back and forth about different things in the book, and that was really cool to see because my friend who I initially contacted, he was like, "Oh, I don't know about this, I don't know about that," and then his buddy chimes in and says, "Actually, I think that works because of this and because of that." And so they had a conversation, and it was really, I think, it was really interesting to see, right, how there's not clear-cut ways, there's not clear-cut answers for some of these things, and especially when it comes to conveying them in a comic book, like there's a lot of, well, is this the best way to explain it? Is that the best way to explain it? But that said, I definitely did change a couple things based on what they had to say, and right, similarly with the other two books, that was the most marked one. With educators, the response has been totally positive. That's been really heartwarming for me to hear about teachers saying that, especially if they have students in their class that maybe aren't so engaged with whatever they're working on. I've heard a couple teachers that are just like, well, I just gave them your book to kind of keep them busy because they finished whatever worksheet the rest of the class was working on, and that they were just entranced, and they were just totally sucked in and wanted it the next day and the next day. And so that's been really awesome to hear. That's obviously what I was hoping for. But what I would like to do, now that these books are finished, is definitely make more of an effort to kind of make it useful for the classroom. My wife's a teacher, so I know very well how valuable a teacher's time is and how difficult it can be to kind of create the time and the space to take something like this that doesn't necessarily fit exactly in the curriculum, and figure out how to make it work with with what we have now. And a lot of times there's testing and schedules, and there's things to get taken care of, and so I'd like to make worksheets and kind of activity guides, lesson plans that might make it really easy to just be like, okay, here's a 20-minute thing you can do to introduce this book, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. But
it's in the works.
It's in the works. It's noodling around up here. But then again, so are other things. So we'll see. We'll see.
So there are, especially in the first book, there's a lot of abstractions that you have to visualize, and I'm going to show one I screen shared before, because I love that within the illustration itself, you're showing a concept in that a little tiny bit of mass, when converted into energy, it's multiplied by a huge number, c squared, speed of light squared, to make a whole lot of energy. So you describe it in the text there, but it's also shown in the visualization. Can you share maybe some other ways that you visualize difficult concepts? Because equations and math are not easy for a lot of people.
Right.
So how did you visualize a lot of these really abstract or sometimes difficult things?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say the most challenging one, and I don't know that it's the most successful, but early in the book, talking about the introduction of the 4 fundamental forces, illustrating gravity, illustrating the weak nuclear force. I don't know if there's really a great way to do that. And I ended up, kind of doing it pretty abstractly, as you said, and just represented them by kind of different types of lines, and then ultimately they made the tracks for a roller coaster that the little family's rolling through. But it's funny because I took this book and I was reading it to a kindergarten class. It was one of the first classes that I took it to, despite the fact that it's definitely not ideal for kindergartners. I would say it's probably for 5th grade.
Okay.
Kind of 5th, 6th, 7th grade. So I was reading these kindergartners, and they saw this page with the 4 fundamental forces, which there's no way that I could provide kind of any sort of explanation that could really convey much, I think, to
Right.
most 5-year-olds. So they're like, why is there a roller coaster in the picture? And I was like, well, I'm trying to say that, like, these forces, like, guide how things, yeah, I don't know. It looks nice. It looks nice. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of things that were hard to illustrate, and a lot of times I would try and scale the narrators way down so that they could be holding, you know, tiny particles, or that, like, for when you're illustrating fusion, you know, I had this machine that was slamming particles together, and, you know, it was this big, you know, mechanical device, or two cannons that were shooting them together and stuff. So, right, lots of visual metaphors.
I
So
like.
say that's the hardest thing you had to illustrate? Because, like you say, these things seem like they really might be pretty challenging to illustrate, and so the 4 fundamental forces, yeah, would be pretty wild. Is there anything else, or was that the hardest thing that really stumped you? As far
Yeah,
as
I mean, I think that's the thing. I
yeah.
really didn't get to, like, something that was that image does not convey a lot of information like some of the other ones. So, like, what I think some of the ones that are happier with was, like, you were showing that progression with the smiley face,
Mhm.
the notion of kind of evolution or reproduction or diversity. Some of those concepts are similarly very abstract, but they're more processes. And so those, I think, are really where the comic book format shines as a educational tool, is that you can show progressions, and you can show change, and you can illustrate things, obviously. So those were really fun. And right, I think that's where I also was getting better at this style of illustration, because I hadn't done a ton of digital art. And so in books 2 and 3, I feel like it became easier to figure out what to do. You know, like when you're illustrating dinosaurs, like, it's, you know how to draw it. Like, anyone can draw dinosaurs and make that work, as opposed to drawing quarks and leptons and stuff like that. But even with the particles, like, once I decided I wasn't going to try and draw them realistically, you can draw a particle and, you know, do a special design, and that one is a up quark, and you do a different design, that one's a down quark, and, you know, etc.
I like another one I like is you have kind of this river in It's Alive. You have this river of genetics mixing and matching that end in gene pools, and they're actually little pools of water. Like, that's not something I ever considered before.
Yeah.
What gave you the idea to do that?
Oh, actually, that's funny. That connects a little bit into so it's something that I'd done that's not really very related to these books, but for a while I worked as a whitewater rafting guide, and so that drawing of before they get to the gene pools, they're on a raging river of genetic material that it's all, you know, kind of mixed up together, and the photo I used for reference from there was from my days whitewater rafting. But in terms of the idea to make the gene pools, I think that kind of thing just springs out to me. Or, you know, when you spend some time brainstorming how you want to illustrate a concept, any kind of obvious pun like that is low-hanging fruit, really. You know, it doesn't take too long for you, like, gene pools, can I do something with that? You know, that could be fun.
Was there anything, so when you were going back and forth with your fact checkers, you said you had a couple of people who were studying astrophysics.
Mm-hmm.
You were in grad school, so
Yeah.
Kudos to them for donating their time, because grad
Yeah, I think I think they've got their doctorates now, so. Yeah.
So you can't be blamed for derailing them.
Yeah, right. I would have finished my work a long time ago,
Right.
but comic book, I was helping.
Comic book, I mean, come on. Was there anything or were there several things that surprised you in going back and forth with those fact checkers?
Any surprises? I mean, I'd say there were definitely surprises when I was reading the Origin of the Universe the first time around. Whether there were surprises from what they came back with, nothing pops into my head. The thing I'm most embarrassed about, though, is I spelled neutron wrong. in the first printing of the book, which fortunately it was these paperback versions were done with print on demand.
Mm-hmm.
So, I printed like a few and then handed them out to my friends and family to do the last proofread, and it was caught. But I'm glad that didn't make it out to the far-reaching public. So
That's a fairly common misspelling. I also, anytime I write anything that involves magnetic fields, they become magentic fields. So don't
Well, that's nice.
do that.
well, that would have been useful for advertising. I mean, for illustrating the books.
Right.
Illustrating magnetic fields isn't so easy either, but if they were magentic fields.
Magentic fields and that, yeah, there you go. So what about when you were first reading this? What was surprising to you?
I think I'd say the things that we really have no idea about. So, for example, like the antimatter-matter concept, and how, at the beginning, matter and antimatter particles were coming into existence at the same time, and they were supposed to be, for one, there was another one, and it was, seemingly equal, and yet now we find ourselves in a world made of matter and not antimatter, and that there's not really a great explanation for it. Although that said, I saw online just a couple days ago I think it was a researcher at UCLA who was saying that he was proposing an idea for what could have helped explain that. But yeah, and then also I think the other one that I thought was really surprising, and a number of my friends who have read the book and who are, pretty science literate adults, that was news to them, was the extinction caused by the creation of oxygen in the atmosphere. That these microbes that were, the first ones to produce oxygen, and that oxygen wasn't, initially a major part of the atmosphere, and that first time it, was introduced, it caused almost everything to die. I don't think there are a lot of people who aren't aware of that, and how many times life on Earth has been almost, the majority of it has been wiped out. I think that's becoming more popular now as we're talking about this extinction that we're living in, right? This extinction that there have been 5 other huge extinctions. It's a pretty cool one.
Pretty cool and pretty scary.
Yeah, pretty scary. But I think it also, obviously it's scary for humanity, but I think it also, there's a way of looking at it as being that life is resilient. Life, I think no matter what we throw at planet Earth, there's going to be some little bug that's surviving somewhere. I don't think that we necessarily have the potential to wipe out everything.
Right.
Obviously, I think it'd be nice if humanity and most of the creatures here could continue living for a long time, but I think life is strong. Life is resilient, and it can handle asteroids and atmospheric change and stuff like that. Not that that's the world we want to live in. But.
Again, the microbes will take over, and they'll be fine.
Right. I'm not great friends with any microbes, though. So from a personal perspective,
saving the Earth is about saving people. A large part of it, definitely. Did you run into any, I wonder if you ran into any topics that were still controversial in science, and how you would explain that, because a lot of the way that science is still taught at the elementary level, you're taught this hierarchy of knowledge, but there's still a lot of open questions out there. How did you approach that?
Yeah, so there are definitely a couple places in the book where I flat out say, like, we don't really know exactly what happened here. Like, these are the things that we know, and these are the things that we kind of, think are probable. So a couple of instances of that are, like, the origin of life on Earth. Mm-hmm. Like, I talk about how, life had to originate somewhere, and it had to come from non-life. Like, those are kind of the facts that we know. But in terms of whether it happened like in a puddle, or at the bottom of the ocean, or in water vapor, or whether it didn't even happen on Earth, whether it happened on some other planet, and there's a lot of ways it could have happened. We don't know for sure. And I think that's important because right, a huge core of what science is being comfortable with what you don't know and being aware of what you don't know and not trying to pretend that you know everything. So yeah, I want to tackle that head on. And I do it a couple places in the book, and then at the end of each book, there's an author's note where I try to make that point pretty forcefully that that's what makes science exciting, is we don't know it all, and that's what makes it something that it's important for the reader to be interested in because they can contribute. Especially the reader as a kid, and they want to make the decision to pursue academia and push that human understanding a little bit farther. They can help clear up some of the gray spots in this book.
Is there anything that's maybe not been completely overturned, but been changed since the publishing of the first two, or each of the sections?
I was just reading something about how the understanding that the dinosaurs were killed primarily by an asteroid is becoming maybe less certain. I mean, certainly that it's not an idea that's been around even for that long, but it has been, I think, for the past couple of decades, kind of the widely accepted one. And I think I was reading about how the Bakken lava fields, something like that, that there were some major volcanoes that potentially changed the atmosphere quite a bit, and maybe it was a combination of that, an asteroid, maybe it was actually primarily these volcanoes. But so yeah, that notion that that maybe we don't have the real answer there, and we could still be learning more on that subject. But
yeah, that's something.
As for other things, so we're going to find out. There might have to be revisions.
Right. Yeah, that's something as an astronomer, we love to talk about the asteroid and comet that killed the dinosaurs, but if you talk to paleontologists, they'll be like, it was there, but they'll tell you, yeah, that's not the only cause of the extinction event.
Yeah, so you may have some future revisions, like you say, and I guess thinking about how to make those revisions, that could be a really good opportunity to sort of highlight how science works. Like you say, there's an element of your additions, incorporating some of the changes that I guess are inevitable in science. That would be a neat opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. I would like to certainly be transparent about that. I think
right. It's okay.
A catalog as I undertook that project.
Yeah.
Not quite ready to do that yet. Hopefully, as it is for a good couple of years.
Right. Oh, I might have to pick up the pace here because how we always complain about books. Especially in the education world, they become outdated so quickly, and it takes so long. This is more for textbooks versus your kind of book, but to even adopt and bring a new book in, and so maybe it's one of the nice things about electronic versions of books. But yeah, that can be an issue, but it can highlight how science works.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So just embrace that extra work that you'll have to do to produce more.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not as detailed as a textbook where smaller things get turned over.
Not quite so bad.
Yeah. I think that should be a T-shirt slogan. Embrace the extra work.
Embrace it. Yes. It's all an attitude.
I've got a pretty good excuse for the next year. I just had a baby, so
no excuses.
All sorts of extra work.
Yep. Yes. Well, congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I expect the revision. In the revisions, the baby in the first book will actually be your baby.
Yeah. There you go.
Just reanimated a bit.
She was born just in time for me to draw her into the hardcover. So yeah, she's in the third book. Although with babies and newborns being the way they are, this was when she was like 2 weeks old or something. So now she looks nothing like that.
Yeah.
Looked like a weird little alien newborn.
We embrace the weird little alien newborns. It's how we survive as a species.
Embrace the work, embrace the weird.
Right.
Embrace the weird. That's another T-shirt. Embrace the weird.
It's on the back of the T-shirt.
Right.
Turn around.
Oh man. So what was it like working through these books as a Kickstarter? What kinds of support did you get? What kinds of feedback did you get?
Yeah. Uh, in my experience, I mean, I know that that doesn't always work so great, but in my experience, Kickstarter has been awesome. It has been so cool. It's like my favorite thing about the internet. Because I don't know how, I don't think I could have done this another way. Like, I don't know how I would have done this if it had been a decade ago. I mean, I guess I would have tried to shop around to publishers, which at some point I think I'd still like to do, but so let's see. With the first book, the black and white book, that's the origin of the universe. I did that one before Kickstarter existed, and I just went on demand. And with that one, because it was my first kind of big thing I was offering for the public, I made it available as a free ebook to anyone who wanted it. Just so I could collect people, I could build kind of a newsletter fan base. And so that was really good because I got a bunch of people who were enthusiastic about it, got a lot of feedback. I was able to get reviews on Amazon and stuff, and kind of build some buzz, get in a couple newspapers, magazines, and so that way, when I launched a Kickstarter to do book 2, then I had like a network to tap, and that's really, I mean, I think that's what what makes a Kickstarter successful is either you have to have something like that's really just so amazing everyone can't help but share it, or you got to have a network of people that want to share it, or you got to know some bloggers, and so because of book 1, I already had quite a few people who had written about the book and stuff like that, so I was able to very easily just contact all of them and get the word out, and so it worked great. And another thing that's really cool I think about Kickstarter is it offers people the opportunity to feel like they're making something happen and being a part of something. And so with a project like this that I think has kind of a claim to making the world a better place, it's something that I think a lot of people are motivated to want to support because there's a lot of people who love science and a lot of people who think that science literacy is important and that children are important and all these things. And so it's easy to get people kind of gung-ho about that. That said, there was I don't know if you heard about this, there was a Kickstarter for someone who wanted to make a tuna salad sandwich or something like that.
I think it was potato salad.
Potato salad, right. Someone wanted to make potato salad and made tens of thousands of dollars. So,
I don't understand it. Yeah.
Enthusiastic the potato salad outreach community is apparently quite enthusiastic.
Wow, okay.
The internet likes random things.
Right.
Is what that one comes down to. I've
Don't
decided.
know what will hit on the internet.
That's my hypothesis about that one. Is the internet likes randomness.
Yeah. And mayonnaise, I think.
And mayonnaise.
But yeah, so Kickstarter was great. The other cool thing is, right, because it's something that I think people get behind. So when I was selling book 1, Bang, if someone really loved the book and thought it was the greatest thing and really wanted to support me, they might buy 5 copies or something, which is lovely, and I really appreciated it. But with the Kickstarter, if someone really loves the book and they really appreciate it, they might pledge $1,000 or something, which is obviously a lot more money than 5 books. And so Kickstarter, you can build kind of these multiple tiers, and you can build a tier that's crazy high that you think that no one in their right mind would give you that much money, and then there are those people out there, a couple maybe. So with the most recent project, the hardcover, I thought it would be fun to offer a tier where if people pledged a certain amount of money, I would let them send me a photo of themselves or a friend, and I would draw them into the book. So I got a couple of those, which was, I thought, really cool that these people who are supporting the project got to be in the book. And then at a much lower tier, lots of people got included as being thanked in the back of the book, where I said this book was made possible by these people, and so I think there were a lot of parents who supported the book and then gave me their kid's name or something, and so they could show their kid at home like, look, you made this book happen, which I think would be pretty fun as a kid to see your name in a real printed and bound book.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool. Now I know so people can go to your website to see the Universe Verse, and you have a code especially for our viewers and listeners?
I sure do. I actually, after I talked to you last, I decided to make a second code. So one, if people want to buy the book, they can use the coupon code Learning Space, and that's there's no. Let's see how to be clear about this. There's no spaces in
There's no space. Learning space.
So,
I'm obviously putting this in the comments.
okay, cool. So I don't have
Page.
learning, no space, space.
Oh, wait, I know what I can do. Oh, no, that won't work.
So yeah, Learning Space is the code, and that'll get you 20% off the hardcover. So it retails for $25, so it'd be $20. But if there's anyone out there who doesn't want to get the hardcover, or perhaps is in another country where shipping would be expensive, I made a code. Yeah, there you go.
That'll work. Learning space for 20% off the hardcover.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want the ebook, you can just do Learning Space PDF, and that'll get you the ebook for half price. So that'll be $5 for the ebook.
So here's for the Learning Space PDF. Did I do that right?
That's exactly right.
Okay, so that's your code, and I'll put that in the comments as well. So that's half price for the ebook.
That's correct.
Yes,
both of those will stay active till the end of March.
End of March. Awesome. Okay, so I apologize to those of you who are listening to the long since archived version of this. Yeah, so if you're listening on the podcast,
In the future, listeners of the future.
Yeah, listeners of the future, we apologize, but if you get this before end of March 2015, you can use those codes Learning Space and Learning Space PDF for the hardcover and the ebook versions.
Indeed. Yeah.
Awesome. Let me.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome.
Yay.
That is excellent.
Ebook. Hang on, I'm like trying to type and talk at the same time. I should never be allowed to do that. There we go. Okay.
They make the perfect gift for kids from age 0 to infinity. So
0 to infinity.
The wide age range is accessible.
And now you can use your mobile devices when planes are taking off and landing, so you can totally read it on your tablet, the ebook version. That's why I read quite a few of my comics will be on some kind of tablet or electronic version, and I can actually do it on the plane. So these little things excite me.
Yeah.
Little perks. Little perks. Is there anything that you have in mind or that you're working on or thinking of working on in the future that you could share with us?
Ooh, nothing too tangible. As I said, I would like to keep kind of working with this book to make it more useful for kids and teachers. But there's definitely going to be more books in the future. At the moment, actually, I'm working on a book for my day job, which is I work for our family runs a few dog training companies. So my dad's, as I said, he studied animal behavior, and then he became a kind of a world-renowned dog trainer, and so we have a dog training school, and he writes books and videos, and he had a TV show for a little while, does seminars, and so for our dog training school, I'm just right now undertaking the project of writing our textbook, which initially we're just doing the text version, but I think eventually it will definitely benefit from a few cartoon illustrations. But I think that would be a lot of fun. That's what I'm doing right now. That'll probably be another few months. But yeah, future projects definitely have given thought to more things about what people would consider to be advanced science. So, like maybe a children's book about string theory or quantum mechanics or something like that.
I was just going to mention quantum mechanics. That would be really fun to illustrate.
Exactly right.
I can illustrate uncertainty. Grayscale, I guess. Or
other ideas were, so as I said, the Dr. Seuss was a real inspiration, and he's written some books. Part of what I really like about him is he wrote the books like the Lorax or the Butter Battle book that are about concepts that people might think are kind of adult, like deforestation and capitalism and the Cold War and mutually assured destruction. Like, these aren't necessarily like kids' topics, but he writes about them in such a fun, approachable way that I don't think people can help but enjoy them and want to read them. And so I think it'd be fun to do books that kind of are more about social commentary things. So, not sure exactly what, and those are definitely, I think, going to be harder to do without being pedantic, and I think it's hard to write books about like that without being overly moralizing or just too blunt. So we'll see, but that's might be down the road.
Well, you've already tackled a topic that is controversial, but not in science. I mean, It's Alive is a large part about evolution, and that is, for some people, a controversial topic.
Mm-hmm.
For various reasons. We had a show specifically on how teachers can tackle those in the classroom. Did you find any feedback, any negative feedback from that, or was that just not on your radar?
No, I think at this point I haven't hit. Like, I think my audience has been people who are enthusiastic about science so far. I think once Oprah recommends the book to her book club, that's when you start getting the crackpots coming out of the corner. Or, that's when you start getting people who don't accept evolution.
Sure.
Speaking, like contacting it. As of yet, I think that'd be a great sign.
Yeah.
I'll probably print out or frame my first letter talking about how dare I try and teach children and indoctrinate them with my crazy science ways.
There you go.
I'm part of the black hole conspiracy. That was like such a great day for me. I was accused of being part of the black hole conspiracy. I was like, yes, I made it.
You reached a greater audience then, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The black holes don't exist, and scientists were making it up for some reason I don't remember. So.
Yeah. That's always the fuzzy part, is why are the scientists making this stuff up? What are they getting out of this?
Right. That one I really couldn't figure out what people, it's like that's a little far removed. Some things, yes, people, they really matter to our everyday lives. But that one, I don't know.
Right, no one's making like money off their non-black hole stock options. Like, there's not an obvious way to gain off of that.
Yeah, my big black hole check right here.
Right, big black hole industry lobby.
Sajay Star Incorporated. Oh, that can be dorky. Adam, we have a comment. Oh, this is funny. We have a comment from Adam. I've had a really difficult time. I've had real difficulty listening this week with my daughter loudly repeating, "I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it."
Oh.
Yay, Adam's daughter.
Yeah. Well, Adam, I think you might have to listen to her.
Young scientist, right there.
Yay.
Persuasive argument.
Persuasive argument. I want it, I want it, I want it.
Tell your dad it's educational.
There you go. So yeah, go. So I said we'll put in the notes and put it on the comment thread. The codes you guys can use at your website. Anything else about the project that you want to share?
I don't think so. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So thank you guys for watching and for commenting. Georgia, there's a comment about your glorious hair on the Google page. I do love Georgia's hair too, so we'll have a little Georgia's hair.
Does love random. You said it. Okay.
I apologize to our audio listeners, but you're missing the fabulous hair.
Okay.
And some really fabulous illustrations. So go check out the website. So it's jldunbar.com/home/theuniverseverse with dashes in it. Or check out the links on the page here where you are getting this from. I think, yeah, so that's it for today. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Next week's Learning Space, I should probably have brought up the schedule. I always forget to do that. Will be Pamela. No, I lied. Next week's, because it's still February, next week is March. Next week, we'll be talking with Bill Yosis and Steve Howell about gastronomy and exoplanets. So they have, they did like a demo. One of them is an astronomer, one of them is a chef, and they combine food and astronomy to talk about exoplanets. So I'm really excited.
Waiting for the connection there. Good. Okay, that's good.
Yes. I don't think we'll have samples like we did when we had Jess Krim on with her geology couple.
Exactly. Sure. You can connect it. Yeah.
But she was local, so that we actually had free samples for that one.
Google Plus doesn't have taste technology yet, does it?
No taste, not even smell. I mean, no smell-o-vision. What's the deal? So that's next week's Learning Space. Other hangouts that you may be watching from our group, the weekly space hangout is Friday afternoon at noon Pacific, where Fraser Kane and a bunch of space journalists and aficionados go over the top stories of the week. Of course, you can check out the weekly Space Hangout crew, which is a Google Plus community filled with all kinds of lovely people, such as Nancy and Michael and Guido and Adam, who have all been coming in and commenting on this show.
Yay!
They're all part of the. I think you guys are all part of the weekly Space Hangout crew, and Guido actually keeps there's a sticky post at the top where Guido keeps track of all of the astronomy hangouts happening on Google Plus. At least all the ones that we know of, our friends and contacts and connections. So thank you, Guido, for curating that. So everybody should check that out. And then Monday is the Astronomy Cast hangout, so that's noon Pacific as well, when Fraser and Pamela record a live episode of Astronomy Cast. And Learning Space also has a Patreon campaign, so if you go over to the showcase, we've got a link to the Universeverse. We've also got a link to our Patreon page that explains a little bit about what goes into making the show, how it was funded previously, how we're working on funding it now. It's brought to you by CosmoQuest and the STEM Center at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, SIUE. So there's a little red E above me right there, little 3D printed red E above me for our university. So check out that if you'd like to continue to support Learning Space production. We greatly appreciate that. So check out the Patreon page for Learning Space. Am I missing anything, Georgia?
You got it all. I'm so good at that. And then I'm going to thank James one more time. Awesome book. Thank you very much. It was a fun show. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. I had a blast.
Books! Go get books! I had to like look at my comic book shelf and get past a few sagas to find them because I'd been building those up. So awesome! Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right.
See you
Bye.
next week.